You're listening to Toolbox For The Trades, brought to you by ServiceTitan, a podcast for top service professionals where we interview leaders for their best tips and tricks of the trades. Learn how industry trailblazers stay ahead of the competition and how you too can be at the forefront of an industry. Let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to the Toolbox For The Trades, presented by ServiceTitan. This is the podcast where we chat with top service professionals about the tools, tips, and tricks they use to dominate their industry. In this first season, you'll hear from top contractors around the world, like 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸, who built a $50 million plumbing enterprise on the West Coast, and Weldon Long, the service selling expert who authored the New York Times bestseller, The Power of Consistency, Prosperity Mindset Training for Sales and Business Professionals. He also built a $20 million service enterprise while he was at it. These interviews will be conducted by me, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸. I'm the content marketing manager here at ServiceTitan, and within my role, I have the privilege of speaking with these incredible entrepreneurs about the challenges they faced and overcame while they did what most of us just dream of doing, achieving the extraordinary. This podcast is me sharing those interviews with you and other contractors at all stages of their business journey. One common theme that comes up time and time again as I speak with these technicians turned CEOs is leadership. Given what's happening on a global scale in 2020, we're thinking a lot about leadership at ServiceTitan and what an important role it plays in business success, and not just during business as usual, but during a crisis. So to kick off this season of Toolbox For The Trades, I figured who better to interview than the CEO of Goettl Air Conditioning and Plumbing, which did $101 million in revenue last year, by the way, and the author of the 𝐄𝐻 HVAC Contractor, Ken Goodrich. This mini interview is me chatting with Ken about his leadership style. I hope that this first episode, as well as all of the interviews on Toolbox For The Trades, will not only provide you with the strategies you can use at your own service business, but also inspire you to reach out to your fellow tradeswomen and men to ask and offer help and guidance. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. Now, without further ado, here's Ken Goodrich. Thanks for being with us today, Ken. So your story and your background is very well known, but for any people who don't know who you are, can you tell me a little bit about how you started off in the trades?
Okay, so, I have a radio ad that we put out, and it kind of tells the story, but it kind of goes like this. I was a 10-year-old boy holding the flashlight for my dad while he worked on an air conditioner for a customer. His name was Duncan Goodrich. He didn't talk much, but there's a certain kind of magic that happens when a son holds the flashlight for his father. I held it steady and quiet, and Dad talked to me while he worked. He said, when a person needs help, you go right away, not when it's convenient for you. He said, always do the right thing, always do what's right. And he said, the Goettl Iron Horse is a magnificent machine. Nothing else even comes close. At Dad's funeral, I realized that every time he was handing me that flashlight, he was passing the torch. And my dad believed in Goettl air conditioners. So I bought the company, Goettl, G-O-E-T-T-L. It'll keep you cool, but it's hard to spell. We'll do everything we can do to I forgot the rest. But that's the story.
That's awesome. I love how
So I started holding the flashlight for my dad at 10, and I was enslaved in the family business.
So just to be clear, your dad didn't own Goettl, but he worked for Goettl. And then once your father passed away, you purchased the business.
No, actually, Goettl was started in Phoenix, Arizona in 1939. And they actually invented the residential air conditioner. They actually are credited by the History Channel on a documentary by making Phoenix, Arizona habitable by bringing refrigerated air conditioning to homes. So anyway, and my dad was a Goettl dealer in Las Vegas, so he sold the equipment in Las Vegas. And interesting enough, the first air conditioner I lit up with my flashlight was a Goettl. And the first one I ever repaired was a Goettl. And the first one I ever installed was a Goettl. And the first one I ever sold was a Goettl. And my dad died when I was 25, and I bought the business from my mom. Goettl was the only company that would give me credit to operate with. And so, I was a Goettl dealer all the way up until they stopped making the Goettls in 2007. And they always had a contracting arm inside the business, service and replacement arm inside the business. And Goettl fell into some hard times in 2012, and I was able to buy it in 2013, January 2013. And I just kind of felt like it was my destiny. I mean, from full circle, from lighting up the Goettl unit with my flashlight to be the CEO.
That's incredible. And I know that you have a history of really resurrecting service businesses that have kind of fallen on tough times, like Goettl. You've in fact sold 24, I believe, after you successfully turned them around. And I think Goettl, as of recently, had hit 101 million last year. Is that correct?
It is. When I took it over in 2013, the year before, it did 11 million in sales and lost 3 million, 250,000 a month. It was bleeding. And so, my team has done an incredible job growing that business and growing our brand. And so now, I mean, when I bought it was only in Phoenix. Now we're in Tucson, Las Vegas, Corona, California, Simi Valley, California, and San Antonio.
That's incredible. I can only imagine that it takes a lot to really turn a ship around, especially one that's bleeding 250,000 a month. And I imagine that takes a whole hell of a lot of leadership. So how do you define your leadership style, and how do you try and lead teams that are that you want to shape, if that question makes sense?
Yeah. So let me answer that in a kind of a roundabout way. So I started no different than anybody else in a service truck. When I bought the business from my mom, after my dad passed away, it was me in a van. I mean, that's how I started. And I quickly hired employees and became a big shot businessman, and got my new loafers and slacks and shirt, and got rid of my van, got a BMW. That's what you do, right? And then I quickly, within a year or so, became upside down. I was financially challenged. So long story short, I got this 𝐸-𝐬𝐸 book from Michael Gerber. I applied his principles religiously. I kept it in my back pocket for 36 months. I read it 39 times. I implemented it religiously and turned the business around. So from that action, from me screwing up my own family business so fast and fixing it, I kind of became a turnaround expert in the industry. And the only reason why I did it, I mean, I was young. I was 25, 26, 27. But the main reason I did it is because I couldn't bear to tell my mom that I had crashed the family business that my dad ran successfully for 20 years. And so I couldn't stop. I had to get through it. So, I think some of that determination and grit was taught to me by my dad, but certainly going through that challenge is a big part of my leadership, in that my goal is to make everybody that comes into my organization better, a better leader, a better technician, better person, more determined person, a better father, just not have any limits and not have any boundaries, and understand how to break through boundaries. Obviously, my leadership style has evolved. For those of you who know me back 20 years ago, I'm probably not as kind and gentle as I am today. And I think that happens just with age and experience, right? So I would call my leadership some of my leadership styles are, I have an innate ability. I developed an ability to find talent. And so if someone said, what are you good at? I'd say, I'm pretty good at talent, because I know where to see it, and I know how to cultivate it. And I know how to get people thinking in the right direction for success. So I think that's part of it. I don't waver. I don't back down from a fight. I face challenges like we're having this challenge right now in the COVID. We face them together. I give people strength to move forward. I let them do their jobs. I have built the business on the systems, and I train them the systems, and I have taught them everything that we do is about a system. And so that if we can't develop a system and quantify the system. We just don't do it. Let's see what else. I wouldn't call myself a kind, gentle leader. I'm not that, but I'm not a tyrant either, and I'm not a taskmaster. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it certainly did. And the things that really stuck out to me in that answer, which was fabulous, by the way, is that you made it very clear that your leadership style has grown and evolved. I mean, that's natural. And I think it's really important for anyone listening that you can change and evolve. And it's natural to make mistakes. It's natural to learn as you go and as you grow businesses or your business. The other thing I really got from the last bit you said was, some people might not think of me as kind and gentle. I think that when it comes to leadership, it's very, I think in order to kind of have that authority and to have your team look up to you for guidance, especially during COVID right now, you need to have a sense of assuredness. And I think that just comes with what you said. It's like, I don't back down from a fight. And I think that as people grow and scale businesses, if you start a business, say with one of your friends, or you hire your technicians who are your buddies from the neighborhood or something like that, as you lead, you kind of have to start putting yourself on this other level, so to speak. And I think that's kind of what you were getting at. Did I totally make that up in my head, or how does that sound to you, what I just said?
I think you're right. And I think another thing that I believe I naturally do, and I think it's important for anybody in the trades, is because I know the trade so well. I mean, I've been doing it for, I don't want to date myself, but 45 years or so. And I can relate to my people, right? I can talk to them. I know the challenges, and I talk to them about the trade, and I pat them on the back, and, I showcase I call it artwork, in air conditioning and plumbing, because I'm a AC plumbing guy. When the pipes are straight, nice and clean, and the machine's working great, I call it artwork, and I call them artists. And so I make sure I mix with everybody inside the organization. And that's not always easy to do. We're getting so large now, but when I do go to the branches regularly, I make sure that I'm talking to the guy that cleans the yard, to the guy that runs the warehouse, to the sheet metal guy, to the plumbers, to the air conditioning guys. I'm mixed with everybody. I work the room.
I think that's so important. And I think it actually comes down to respect. By the way, I also love that you refer to amazing plumbing and HVAC work as art, because it really is. I mean, I've seen some beautiful installation jobs, and it's also a hyper technical one. I think it's so important now more than ever to really connect with your team, to listen to them, and to show that you respect and care about them, especially as technicians are on the front lines as essential workers going into people's homes who may be sick. Do you agree?
Well, 100%. We use this consulting firm called MAP, Management Action Programs, out of Newport Beach, and they teach the fundamentals of management and leadership. And we use this for our, trades people to get them up to speed as we promote them through the ranks, to understand how to manage and lead. And one of their key sayings is something I think is important for what we're talking about, is great leaders are great actors. And it took me a while to embrace that, because I've always just never wanted to be fake. I can't be fake. I just got to tell you like it is, But I've kind of evolved with that concept that, it's more about, you have to put on the brave front, right? You got to put on the brave front to everybody. You got to empathize, and you got to with them, and you have to make sure that they know you got their back. But even when you're not feeling it, even when you're scared, even when you're aggravated, even when, you're just pissed off, you just got to put on the front and be the brave man and go do it.
Yeah, I think that's some excellent advice for everyone listening right now who are dealing with technicians who are probably very scared. Pivoting a little bit, can you talk to me about some leaders that have made an impression in your life and what kind of impression they made?
So I guess I'll throw my dad out there. It maybe sound cliche, but my dad was a different sort of character. And he was a very intelligent guy, and he was very entrepreneurial. And he would just brave through all, different challenges. He was an engineer, and he would buy government surplus, right? Electronics, radio equipment, Geiger count equipment, big machinery, and at these auctions for pennies on the dollar. And, he'd have, me and my friends clean it up, and he would get it working, and we'd sell it all over the world, right? So he just braved through all the challenges. He just showed me and everybody else that there's nothing you can't do, right? Next thing I would say, Michael Gerber. So Michael Gerber is the author of the E-Myth. This guy he wrote the #1 best-selling business book of all times, the E-Myth Revisited, right? And he's helped millions of people. He's sold 5.5 million copies of these books. There's nobody that's in business that really doesn't have heard of Michael Gerber. And so I think he's been a true inspiration to me the whole time. I met some good leaders in the course of my time, that I've worked with. I don't have anybody notable, like, everybody says they want to have dinner with Bill Clinton. I would like to have dinner with Bill Clinton. I don't know how much he's influenced me, but, just
definitely play a mean saxophone tune for you.
Yeah. So I think the leaders that influenced me are just the people that I've come into contact on my journey in building my business. Certainly, guys like Jim Abrams in the past, who ran Success Group International, was a key influencer on me. Matt Michelle, who runs Service Nation and Service Nation Alliance, Service Roundtable, has been a key influencer on me as well. So I think for anybody in what we do, it's incumbent upon them to get out there and mix and mingle in these best practice groups, because that's where I found the best influencers in my life.
Yeah, that's definitely a message that we're going to hear time and time again on this first season of the podcast. So you're certainly not alone in that point of view.
I will tell you this, and this is going to sound contrived, but it's not. Someone who's really influenced me and I believe is a great leader and wise beyond his years is Ara, the ServiceTitan CEO. He just has a very pragmatic and logical way of looking at things, and he has a way about him. He can disagree with you and not make you feel like you're in an argument. He just has a good way of reasoning, and I've tried to study some of his techniques and implement them as well.
That's awesome. I agree with you, actually, as someone who's worked under Ara's team for over 2.5 years. And speaking of Ara, you mentioned being deliberate and being and that kind of comes with being goal focused too, right? So as a leader, now in spring of 2020, in the grips of COVID-19, what advice would you give to leaders who now have to pivot strategies and completely change the way they're doing, the way they're working within their shops?
So I would say, number one, we are an essential service business, and we were essential service business before the term essential service business ever came out. I've always said to my people, air conditioning is not a luxury, it's a life support system. And the really same thing with plumbing. And we have an obligation. We put ourselves in this business, but we have an obligation to our customers to make sure that their life support system is working and reliable and not prone to breaking down, especially now when their houses are occupied 2, 3, 4 times more than they usually are. The systems are being used that much more. And so we got to go out and protect our communities. Think about the challenges that will exist is if everyone's HVAC system or significant amount of breakdowns happen or plumbing system challenges, how's that going to compound to the problems that we have? So you have to believe in that. And I've always believed in it. It's my obligation. There's nothing better than going to fix somebody's air conditioner in the middle of the summer in Las Vegas or Phoenix when it's 117 degrees out, and the look of thankfulness in their eyes, thanking us for helping them. I mean, that's a big part of why our people go out and do that every day. So there's a real sense of accomplishment there. So you got to believe in that. You have to believe in that concept. And then that concept you have to influence your whole team the same way.
Certainly.
And so that's what we've done, with this challenge we set out, right? My message is very similar to my people. Like, this is who we are, and this is our obligation. This is our duty. This is what we do.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great advice. You authored the 𝐄𝐸𝐻 contractor, the 𝐄𝐸𝐻 HVAC contractor with Michael Gerber. So, a lot of contractors look up to you as, this HVAC god, as this guy who has nailed down this process. People come to you for advice all the time. You graciously give it all the time. If you had a megaphone or some sort of way to embed one piece of advice to all contractors everywhere, what would it be?
So in the 𝐄𝐸𝐻 book, Michael Gerber explains how all small businesses start. And it's with what he calls an entrepreneurial seizure. And it's where the technician does not have to be an air conditioning technician, if you will. A technician is somebody who does the technical work of anything. A graphic artist is the technician of graphic arts company, right? And so, everyone has to say, I can do this on my own. And so I guess the one thing I would say is you have to clearly understand that just because you know how to fix an air conditioner or a plumbing system does not make you a business person, does not give you the credentials to run a business. And they're two distinct different disciplines. So if you decide you want to go into business, or you're in business and struggling, go get the knowledge on how to be in business. I tell people nowadays, I've resided the fact that I'm not in the air conditioning and plumbing business. I'm a business builder. And so I implement the concepts that I got taught years ago from Michael's book about how to build a business. I just happen to be the technician, understand the technical work of air conditioning plumbing. So that's the easiest one for me to do. And I certainly have been involved in other businesses too. But if I can narrow down the answer, I'd say before you start or when you're struggling, go get the knowledge you need to run a business.
I think that's great advice. And that's actually what we're trying to do here at Toolbox is we're trying to deliver contractors the info they need to run their businesses as smoothly and successfully as they possibly can. So what a great way to kick off the first season of Toolbox for the Trades, Ken. I didn't even ask you to say that.
Well, I think it's, listen, I'm just trying to save people 10 years. I mean, I really feel like it took me 10 years of struggle before I really got it. So I really got some real momentum behind it. And, as soon as I did, I was able to sell the business for multi-millions of dollars. So I figured it out. But if I can save my industry fellows a few years off their lives and a few years of struggle and stress, I like to give back.
Love that. Any final words on leadership?
I think don't be afraid to say you don't know. Don't be afraid to be a human. And I think that garners a lot more respect than always being the smartest guy in the room. And I don't know when I started that years ago, I just said I don't know. I don't know the answer. You help me, to my people. Give me the answer. Help me. And that fosters a real team environment. So just being human and letting everybody know you're human, but you're also determined, leading them. You care about them, and you're gonna lead everybody down the right path. They'll follow you.
I love that. Ken Goodrich, thank you so much for helping me kick off season 1 of the Toolbox for the Trades. Is there anything that you'd like to promote other than your fantastic book?
So I told the story on ServiceTitan webinar, whereby in 1988, I was broke down in my 1975 service van in the middle of the summer, overheated, and I'm pissed off. And this guy pulls up in this fancy sports car at gas pumps, and I happen to know him. He went to school with me, a couple years older, and he kind of stumped me, like here I'm sitting in my dirty tech shirt, my dirty van, and overheated, right? And I started thinking about, man, I work so hard. I mean, I'm working in attics and on roofs, and it's 120 degrees outside, and I'm working with high pressures and temperatures and electricity and whirling fans and all this stuff going on. I gotta do something different. I cannot work this hard and not have the ability to have what this guy has, who's, I don't know what he did. He sold real estate or something. And so I said, look, I'm going to build a business with systems. And I was just getting the E-Myth stuff at that time. I'm going to build a business with systems whereby I can make a respectable living, and I can make a living that is worth all these risks that I take. And so I got a yellow pad while the engine was cooling down. I started writing this stuff, and I said, okay, the only way I'm going to get this done is I'm going to develop these systems, and I'm going to develop them for my people. And then I'm going to develop systems and methods for running this business that will improve the entire industry.
I love it.
And so I've spent my time doing that, sharing over the years, because I felt like if I was helping other people, they would push me up. And I think it's worked. And so I'm happy to share. I'm happy to help. I don't know. I talk to 5, 10, 15 guys a day that just want to run things by me, because I just think that's what moves me forward.
I love that, Ken. And I can certainly, in my time knowing you, I can certainly see why so many people look up to you. And it has been nothing short of a pleasure to work with you on ServiceTitan content for our contractors, for our customers, for people who follow us. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to do it.
Big thanks to Ken for helping me kick off the Toolbox for the Trades. For those listening, visit servicetitan.com/leadership to access our full playbook on leadership during a crisis, authored by our own CEO, Ara Medissian, or click the link in our show notes. To make sure you don't miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Toolbox for the Trades wherever you get your podcast. And to all of our essential workers out there, be safe and stay healthy. Now, before we go, I want to share an anecdote that Ken shared with me before we technically began the interview. Don't worry, I asked him if I could share it. It's the origin of his renowned Sadie Certified campaign at Goettl. If you're desperate to find a laugh amongst your COVID-19 newsfeed, just like I am, I hope this story brings you as much joy as it did for me. Enjoy.
Because of the brand, is Ken a real guy? Are you Sadie certified? You know what Sadie certified is, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Let me tell you that story real quick. So we kind of got Sadie by accident. It was for my son's 7th birthday. And I said to my wife, I said, listen, Wendy, do not go get the dog until I can come with you, because I want to help pick him out. Because in my mind, I didn't want to get a little Fifi dog. I wanted to get him a boy's dog, a man's dog, golden retriever, chocolate lab, something like that, right? And so, of course, I worked late that night, and I'm coming home. She goes, oh, we got the dog. I'm like, oh, no. What'd you get? She goes, oh, we got a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier. I go, oh, no, what is that? And she goes, well, he has to have a hypoallergenic dog. There's not so there's only so many choices. But she said when she walked by, Sadie put her paw up as Duncan walked by, and it was over, right? So they get them, and you've seen them when they're pups.
Mm-hmm. They're like little teddy bears. They're like little Ewoks.
Yeah. That's what I always say. It's little teddy bears. So it was cute, and it played around, but I was always a little agitated about the dog. And then the dog, Sadie, just loves me. She sits and stares at me. She walks with everywhere I go. And when I would get home, she would jump, and she would jump on everyone who came, jump and claw and jump and claw and jump and claw. So I'm not I wasn't mean to her, don't get me wrong, but I was always a little, agitated with Wendy about the dog because it just didn't go the way I wanted to go, right? So anyway, my attorney one day says, hey, the head of the contractors board is making some odd comments about you. And, you should start politicking, or you should go get to know these people and connect with them. And I go, why? I go, what are we going to talk about? And he goes, well, I need you to know all the small guys, that's what they do. They kibitz and they talk to these people, and they all have relationships, except for the big guys. So the little guys complain about you taking all their business and are putting a negative impression upon the contractors board. And I said, all right, well, what am I going to talk about to this woman? He said, all she cares about is her Wheaton Terrier. And I go, I got a Wheaton. He goes, well, there you go. There's what you got in common. So I figure out where I can meet her and there was a Christmas party that she was going to be at. So Wendy and I go to the Christmas party, and, I work up my nerve, and I'm going to go talk to her. So I go up and I introduce myself, and she was a little standoffish. I said, I understand you have a Wheaton. She goes, well, yes, I'm the foremost authority on Wheaton Terriers in the state of Nevada. Right? I'm like, oh. I said, hey, is there anybody who can train them to not jump? She said, oh, you can't train that out. It's in their DNA. It's called the Wheaton Greeton. I'm like, okay, good. So, and then she said, she's talking about how she takes her dog Baxter, and they're sheep herder kind of dogs. And so she takes them twice a year to Reno to sheep herd. And I go, well, maybe Sadie can come along. She goes, oh, I know Sadie from the groomer. So I'm like, I'm connected. Like I'm the bureaucrat connector right now, right? I'm feeling good. And so we're talking about the dogs, and my wife walks up and says, what are you guys talking about? And the woman looks at Wendy and says, oh, we're talking about the Wheatons. And Wendy looks her right in the eye and says, oh, he hates that dog. and this woman says, well, it was nice meeting you. She took 2 steps back, put on her coat, and left the party.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, do you realize what you just did? You just put the death warrant on me now. And so that woman, for like 5 years, she would never talk to me. Every time my attorney would go there, she would say, are you still representing that guy that hates dogs? I mean, it was terrible. I tell Roy the story about the Wheaton Greeton, and I did tell him, I said, I bring people over that are a little sketchy that work for me, that I'm thinking they're odd. I bring them over because you got to imagine, I have the most badass air conditioning system and plumbing system ever, right?
Obviously.
And so when I bring her over, the people that I'm always concerned about, Sadie verifies for me because she'll run and hide and she won't jump on them, give them the Wheaton Greeton, right? And then I tell him the story. We got to get this woman to like me. What are we going to do? He goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to write an ad about the Wheaton Greeton that Sadie checks all your employees. So you got to have to start doing that. I go, well, she does a lot anyway, but okay. And then we're going to get Sadie pups made, stuffed Sadie pups, and we're going to give them out on every call, right? So we started this Sadie campaign. And when we did it, it went like, I got on the news a bunch of times. The newspaper did an article about it. And then the phones were ringing off the hook. My dog is the same way, 6 cents. So anyone who's Sadie certified can come to my home. And we do millions of dollars a year over this thing. But it was only to get this woman off my back. We put Sadie on billboards. We got the stuffed animals, blah, blah, blah. And then finally one day I give some stuffed animals to give to the lady at the contractors board. So my attorney brings them to her. She said, I love those ads. And he goes, well, those ads are for you. You understand? She goes, really? She goes, oh my God, I love those ads. I love the puppies. I love Ken. So that's how we got it done.
The grit and know-how required to tackle your community's toughest jobs hasn't changed, but the way companies run their business has. ServiceTitan is the only field service software that was born in the trades, built for the trades. If you're interested in seeing what ServiceTitan can do for your business, request a demo at servicetitan.com/trades, and we'll send you a new Milwaukee tool set, plus a free iPad when you sign up. That's servicetitan.com/trades. You've been listening to Toolbox for the Trades, presented by ServiceTitan, the leading home and commercial field service software. Please subscribe to Toolbox for the Trades wherever you get your podcasts to hear all of our episodes. Want to learn more? Check out servicetitan.com/podcast. Thanks for listening.